Hello and welcome to Tengi Talks TV and Movies. I'm Tengi and today's movie is Vampyr, the 1932 horror vampire film from Danish director Carl Theodor Dreyer. Now, full disclosure, I've seen this but not for many years. And what interests me on seeing it again now is that I was thinking about it and the time it was made. It comes a year after the Universal Dracula with Bela Lugosi. So Dreyer is coming in on the coattails of that, but his material is based instead of on Bram Stoker's Dracula on the horror writings of J Sheridan LeFanu. And I think that's a really interesting point of difference. So I'm really interested in seeing it again with that in mind. Let's take a look at Vampyr.
Oh! What the hell? Oh my god.
No! Ooh, lovely title. I love that dreamy, blurry effect. I did read that Julian West, who plays the leading man, actually financed this movie. He was some rich aristocrat. This film features partial sound recording, so there's some minimal recorded dialogue and sound effects. This is the fantasy experience of young Allan Gray, who engulfed himself in studies of demonology and vampire lore. Preoccupation with the crazed ideas of past centuries turned him into a dreamer and a fantasist. Lost at the border between reality and the supernatural. Ooh, nice setup. On one of his aimless wanderings, one evening he made his way to the secluded riverside inn in the hamlet of Courtompiere. That's a lot of information, but it's a nice setup. So it sets it up being on that border between fantasy and reality, that liminal dream space, I guess, which is a great place to start. That seems like an omen. A reaper. He seems very preoccupied with this man with a scythe. But this close-up, you don't see a lot of macro close-ups like this in films from this period. I love this constantly moving camera. That's also quite unusual. It really gives you a sense that we're following him on his adventure. Ooh. I like the way the film creates the main character as this guy who's kind of restlessly, almost on the prowl for some kind of supernatural adventure or something. He's almost looking for trouble. Ooh, that's creepy. Wow.
Wer sind Sie?
The fact that he's not saying anything makes it creepier. Is he dreaming, or is this really happening, or is it a psychic vision? So many portents of death, forebodings of death in this movie so far, and we're only a few minutes in. Love the lighting in this scene. Taking place, what kind of horrifying mystery was being revealed? Allan Gray sensed something. A human soul in mortal danger was letting loose a cry for help, and an inner voice bade him follow this cry. The way this film seems so modern. That's brilliant. So brilliant. Wow. So he's seeing spectres, perhaps ghosts of the First World War, maybe? I love how in the black and white it's almost hard to tell who's real and who is a spectre like that previous figure. Oh my god. That is so brilliant. So his shadow went away and then came back. And at this stage it kind of makes you wonder whether Allan Gray is a spectre himself, because he seems to be moving through a world of spectres. Is he one? Amazing. How brilliant is this? I'm getting a bit teary just because of how brilliant and innovative it is. It's like the usual laws of time don't apply. Things are going backwards, forwards. Oh. Doctor's got coffins in his house? Or is it the doctor's funeral? Oh jeez. That's grim. Like in every scene there's something suggesting death. It's the skeletons, it's the spectres, the reaper, more skeletons, more skulls. Ooh, a clock with no face in it? Why is that so disturbing? It is disturbing. And it's that fantastic German concept of the unheimlich, the uncanny, where things that are familiar suddenly become unfamiliar, like a clock that has no face in it. Mark Twain. See, can the other characters even see Allan Gray? That's why I'm thinking, is he a ghost? Where did he come from? It almost looks like he drew him out of the wall. And what is he? Is he from another time? Like he's dressed in Tudor era clothes or something? Is he blind? There's a sense in which none of the characters are really looking at each other or seeing each other, which is really unsettling. So is that character like an alchemist or something? This is incredibly creepy. He followed after the receding shadows and arrived in a sprawling park between the age-old trees of which a lone castle loomed, isolated from the rest of the world and in the company of just his 2 daughters and a small retinue of servants. Lived a man who had previously appeared in the inn. Okay. Oh, this is the guy who appeared and came into his room talking about his daughter.
Das Blut! Gehen Sie nicht schlafen, bevor der Arzt kommt.
What's interesting to me about this is that the characters seem haunted. They really seem haunted in a way that the characters in the Universal Dracula don't. Not only cursed with vampirism, they're haunted by it. So what happened then? And what he said before in the inn, it seemed like he knew he was going to be killed. Wow. Fantastic. Ooh. So vampires are the result of having committed heinous acts during their lifetimes. So in this version, they're not people who are infected by being bitten by a vampire. It's their own sinful natures that makes them become vampires.
Dort im Park sehen Sie.
Uh-oh. That's the old guy from before, isn't it? That's why he was wearing old-timey clothes, because he's a deathless vampire? That's a really creepy and novel idea of representing the vampire. He's wearing clothes from another century because he's been alive since then. I mean, that's something we've seen in What We Do in the Shadows, the film, but I don't recall seeing it in an old movie before now. The use of the moving camera in this film is astonishing. Compare it to the Universal Dracula. The way it's photographed is so stagey, so static, whereas this, the camera is just restlessly moving all the time. It creates a completely different feeling. Ooh, the vampire is plagued with a craving for his victim, and in the face of this desire is torn back and forth between bloodthirsty appetite and frantic revulsion. So they're presenting it as contagious as well as being caused by sin. Ooh, I've never seen anyone wipe a vampire bite with antiseptic before. That is a great touch. Of course, Dreyer is famous for his film Passion of Joan of Arc, which features all these amazing close-ups, and that's what I'm thinking of with this shot.
Oh, könnte ich doch sterben. Nein, Léone. Ich weiß. Ich bin verloren. Ich bin
Wow.
verdammt.
This is also very novel in vampire films, that as soon as the person has been bitten, she knows she's doomed. That awareness makes it so much more disturbing. And she's actually transforming as we watch. Wow. That was brilliant. Oh, I want to see what happens when the nun approaches her. love that she saw the nun, the crucifix, and recoiled from it. So this was 10 years after Nosferatu, and I think there's still shadows of Nosferatu hanging over this movie. So in this film, the vampires are really blurring that line between the living and the dead. They're able to influence living people, and their contagion is a lot more blurred around the edges in what they can do. So isn't this doctor in league with the vampire? This is what we saw before?
Wollen Sie Ihr Blut dazu hergeben?
The way the doctor's saying it, it's not clear if she needs to drink it or be transfused with it, which makes it even more disturbing.
Warum kommt der Arzt Ihnen beiden nach?
Because he's a vampire too. An iron stake driven through the heart. Interesting twist. I like how they also explain it, that they're nailing the soul to the earth. A lot more explanation in this one than in Dracula. I also love the fact that in this it's very ambiguous what's happened to Alan Gray. Has he had his blood taken for a transfusion, or has he been the victim of the doctor who is a vampire, or seems to be a vampire as well? That ambiguity is very unsettling. So the doctor's either a vampire or the agent of the vampire. I'm not sure which. Wow. Oh boy.
Kommen Sie! Schnell! Es geschieht etwas Furchtbares.
Oh. He was dreaming about the poison that the doctor is giving to Léone. Like everyone in this film is a little bit psychic.
Sie darf nicht sterben. Sie muss bis zum Sonnenaufgang am Leben bleiben. Hören Sie.
Oh, so this old guy has worked out what's happening. He's going to go and stake the vampire? It's funny, I remember particular images from this film, but I don't remember the story, and I don't remember the amazing atmosphere that it has. Oh boy. Wow. See, this does make me think that Alan Gray is some kind of spirit, because now he's like fully spectral in his appearance. He's see-through. How else are we supposed to interpret that? That he's psychically traveling around experiencing these things? Maybe? Whoa. See, is that his spirit visiting his real dead body? Oof. Brilliant. So brilliant. Oh, it's the peg leg soldier from before. Oh God. That noise of the screws being put into the coffin lid. Oh. Man, this is creepy. Utterly, utterly brilliant. Having this subjective camera shot from inside the coffin. Who else would think of that? Unbelievable. And so disturbing. And yet weirdly beautiful at the same time. So, that seemed like it was a dream or a premonition. Oh, fantastically well done. That was so well done. I only wish they'd showed us the staking of the vampire though. Imagine the close-up Dreyer would have got out of that if he'd done it. So, sorry, that vampire was a woman? I thought it was a gentleman. Oh, sorry. Okay. Well, that's interesting. I like how androgynous that vampire was. It's a really interesting choice. Oh. What is going on in there? Is this the vampire coming for the doctor, or is it God coming for him to punish him? Oof! Ooh, boy! Again, this motif of people not seeing or hearing each other. And who's real and who is a spectre? I mean, that's visually so arresting, being buried alive in flour, but is there a symbolic dimension to it as well? I guess the only symbolic connection I can make is with flour to like bread as representing the body of Christ, but that seems a bit of a stretch. This film is stunning, so beautiful. Wow, I was just blown away by Vampyr. I'd forgotten so much about it. The story, the atmosphere. This film makes such an interesting comparison with the Universal Dracula. They are such different interpretations of the idea of a vampire. And I love how different they are. This is a film that really captures the idea of a kind of spiritual contagion as well as a physical contagion of vampirism. The other thing that I just can't believe in this movie, how effective it is that restless camera that never stops moving. It really creates such an unusual feeling to watch. And I think that moving camera really kind of counterbalances that lack of traditional story in this movie. It does create a sense of pace, of moving forward, of action, even when there's not a lot happening in terms of events that happen in the movie. I really thought the elderly vampire character was male in this film, and when I first saw them I thought it was like some kind of old worldy alchemist or something. So the fact that it actually was intended to be female I think is quite interesting. The film doesn't really give us any clues in the usual sense that this is a female character. It's a really interesting choice, and I think that choice typifies the ambiguity that runs so strongly throughout this movie. And that ambiguity is what makes this film so fascinating and so compelling. In a way, to me, this film prefigures films like Daughters of Darkness and The Hunger, both vampire films which really dive into that world of narrative ambiguity in such an interesting way. But this one does it about 40 years before them, and I think it takes it to some much more interesting and disturbing places. What happens to the doctor at the end in the room when there's all the shadows playing on the door? What is going on in there? Who is it that is punishing him? Is it God or is it the vampire? I love how original it is. I love how daring it is in what it's trying to do. That shot from the point of view of the guy in the coffin is astonishing and unforgettable. Vampyr leaves you with so much to think about. I think I'm going to be chewing a lot of these concepts and themes over for the next few days. There is just so much to admire and appreciate in this extraordinary film, and I could not recommend it any more highly. Run, don't walk to YouTube to watch this amazing and inventive movie. If you've enjoyed watching Vampyr with me today, I'd love it if you would like and subscribe. Thank you so much for joining me. I really enjoyed this movie so much that I want to watch it again. I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. Bye.